Harinkey. Thank you for showing yourself. I can see you haunt in the same way I do. With this letter I suddenly want to tell you all about everything, but of course when I get that way I find I also don't have much more to say, not much more than anyone else would, so I'm lost in ineffectiveness, and I'm not so special, and I'm a tiny disappearing dot, etc. But I guess I can say that my favourite part is the way you feel you could watch forever and never once leave. You just sometimes want to walk until the world falls down around you, or until you subside into the world. You could walk until you die of thirst and then just keep walking, staring, and hope they don't remove you. They'd remove you though, I suppose, wouldn't they? Even if you remained upright and deaf, someone would eventually notice, right? By the by, did you find the apple I left for you? Best, Millie.
As said though, Suitor X kept a spare prose with his love letters, always remarking within them that he felt strongly he would put Hannes off of him if he said too much, or was too florid and showy, too flowery, too much. He didn't want to overstate his case and put her off by showing off whirligig installations he could create with words. He didn't want to be turgid. He didn't want to repeat sentiments a million different ways with a million different written ornaments, which he could very well write things once and have them finally, forwardly put and plainly put and mean them. So his love letters said things like, "I love you," but never said things like, "You are a rose." Hannes thought this was all terribly romantic, but Hannes worried Suitor X's old-fashioned means and ways of speaking to her father, Mr. Hardeham Rigby, denoted a mind lost in a shuffle of verbiage, and anyway, she had never met Suitor X, and anyway, Hannes was unsure if she believed in marriage. And sometimes Hannes got the impression Suitor X was following her and would cough or hiccup to announce his presence, but then when she turned there was never anyone behind her. Lauren set her straight on this, noting that everyone hallucinated at least once in a while, and marriage lent a seriousness to the endeavour of love, a gravity that kept love from its regular patterns of turmoil.
Behind that door.
How many Cubans do we need? Hasn't one been more than enough?
There'll be no sleeping in Sherwood Forest like I hoped. But then, I haven't even read the book, so easy come, easy go. Oddly, it's hoodies that have scared us out of Sherwood Forest. Around here in Nottingham, they probably all think about Robin Hood at least once a day.
It's behind that door.
Here's a quick rundown of recorded history. Ancient Babylon, Pyramids of Egypt, the birth of Christ, Battle of Hastings, the Black Death, discovery of America, William Shakespeare, French Revolution, First World War, Apollo moon landing. If you should have a last night of camping in the forest, make sure you wee in the wee hours and check the full moon burning away the clouds into a mode of sky surrounding that full moon. It's a particularly stark side. I heard about a guy lived in a cave in summer and a wooden hut in epic forest in the winter. But the wooden hut burned down.
The second and third suitors that Hannes preferred above the remaining 5 suitors were the 2 suitors Hannes loved greatly for their joy of living, the smiles on their faces, their ebullience. Is that right? I can't say it. Ebullience. Ebullient. I can't say it. What is it? Ebullience. I've never heard of that in my life. Hannes loved greatly for their joy of living, the smiles on their faces, their ebullience. Is that right? I can't say it. Right. The smiles on their faces, their ebullience and enchantment, and every curve and corner of their existences, and like Suitor X, their abilities with pen and paper. However, Hannes had reservations about both Suitor Y and Z being good husbands, as they were both given to insobriety. Lauren explained that being from the church, he had many experiences with men and women run afoul of the devil in alcohol, beings as how that they were only allowed option for escape in legal terms, and churchgoers preferred by and large legality, and that alcohol was a relatively simple thing to conquer since it was a parasite from outside the person. It was nothing to reflect on the person's actual character, and that generally alcohol was vanquished when a person realised with some finality that life, even the boring bits, was precious in every detail, and that even something as uninteresting as a bit of road or cement could undergo a scientific-like devotion and a scour of appreciation, and therefore every moment was sacred and deserving of full contact memory. Hannes marvelled she had 8 suitors when even 3 would be too many. Hannes thought she would have preferred the suitors to come straggling up to her in wagons, would she have lived in a rattletrap house on a foggy hilltop somewhere in some sweep of English moors.
Hannes talked of 5 unsuitable suitors, one young enough and bad enough that his painterly qualities tended towards the graffiti of the names of women other than her, and Hannes thought that Suitor's interest in her had surfaced only when he could not spell her name on a wall.
Hannes mentioned the 4th to last of the suitors, who had a laugh that choked him, and in turn created an unlaughter-like sound that oppressed her ears. Hannes mentioned the 3rd to the last of the suitors, who never cared to sleep, found sleep an interruption of the life he was trying to lead, and so this suitor used sewing needles and dropped spoons to keep himself awake. Consequently, he suffered night wanderings and compulsions over which his clothes were clean and which were needing laundering, and he would separate his clothes into bags by the number of times each piece were worn, and also kept a diary, or logbook rather, about said numbers, and usually gave clothes to charity if they reached the number 11, causing him a constant lack of money, so that his only bright idea for a date was frisbee in the park. Hannes mentioned the final 2 suitors, twins who each desired what the other thought, and so when one of these twins had accidentally had a note of fancy for the way Hannes's long hair wisped in a breeze in front of a Nottingham off-licence, thereupon the fancy bounced back and forth psychically between the twins until they had brewed themselves into a double intent towards marriage and a nearly violent 4-way jealousy where the 2 of them were at home and out of sight of Hannes.